what would you say to the men out there who may have experienced something similar to what you experienced, but because of the whole alpha male ego thing, that they feel like that, you know, I can't just whine and moan about it because I'm a man. I just got to handle it, and they're mentally being abused, and they feel like because they're a man, if they express feelings on it, it's like they're weak, and they just kind of just continue to accept the abuse. Like, would you have any words of encouragement or anything to the men out there in those situations? Because, society always paint a picture for the women, and we feel sorry and bad about the women, and we hear all these domestic violence situations and all of that, but you don't hear much about men being mentally abused. Men are typically mentally abused, whereas women are typically mentally abused too, but mostly physically abused. Men get mentally abused almost as much as women get physically abused, and it's embarrassing and degrading, and men don't really discuss it, and they're being abused. And would you have any words of encouragement or advice for those men going through those types of situations?
Well, I can try. You're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought that up because, I still have it today, like when people bring it up, they really minimize what happened. And, I don't just bring this up in every conversation, but I'm pretty open about it. I've become pretty open about it. But that's a real thing. We are raised in this society that, boys don't cry and, we're tough. We're supposed to be able to man up and handle it. And I dealt with this a lot, that people just don't get it. It's, unless a person's experienced it, they just really cannot appreciate the depth of this. They can't really understand, even if they try. But most people are just, their attitude is just like, well, just get over it. Just move on. And it really isn't that simple. And as far as the male position, being a male and being raised in this society like that, it really is tough. And I experienced that too. But what happened for me is I just got enough pain that I didn't care so much anymore. And I am the first to admit there were times that I cried every day for weeks and weeks at a time, every day. I had an experience one time. I went through a fast food place to get some food, and it was, these things were on my mind. And by the time I got up to the window to get my food, I was bawling like a baby. And I felt embarrassed, and this person's looking at me like I'm crazy, but I was in so much pain, and it was just, I couldn't stop it. And, I just finally accepted, I'm a man, but I'm a human being above everything. I'm a human being. We have emotions. We hurt, and we have the same emotions.
You're a human being. You're a man, but you're a human being. That's what I'm talking about.
And I just kind of let that whole thing go. I don't think I'm a real ego-driven, hoorah kind of a guy anyway, so it may be a little easier for me, but I dealt with it too. I had it. On my videos, there was times that I kind of broke down and was crying. I just got to where I didn't care. I want to feel better. I want to heal, and I want to feel better, and this is part of the process. So, I respect it. It's, even though if I see him, not to get political here, but I just saw, our president on TV, and he got tears in his eyes. I respected it. To me, it raised my appreciation and respect for the man. So I don't look down on other men who cry, but yet it's hard. We don't let ourselves do it, But this is a real thing, and it is abuse. It is absolutely abuse. And at any time, I had to get to a point when someone is telling me, just move on or whatever, I just couldn't listen to it. I get away from that advice and get away from those kind of people. I had to have really good supportive people, and there wasn't a lot of them. Really, I met more of them online, and I really just kind of focused on those people that were real supportive.
I know what you mean. Like, as far as that, like, in my situation, when I was dealing with a similar situation with someone who, because, it's crazy. It's like you end up having to diagnose these people yourself. Am I right, Trenton?
Yes.
Because
yes,
it's not
absolutely.
like they're just willing to up and go in therapy with you and sit patiently through therapy to realize they have an issue. You have to you have to become an inspector. You have to, do your own research and try to get, because you'll drive yourself crazy if if you don't.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because we actually did go to some counseling. At my suggestion, hey, let's go to marriage counseling or that sort of thing. They kick their manipulative skills into high gear sitting in a therapy session. They will manipulate the therapist, and you can read about it. Very well-known fact. And I've even talked to some therapists who told me that they had to get out of the industry, had to get away from the therapy world, because these people are draining. They will suck the life right out of you. And they are very good at manipulating a therapist. And we had a couple of therapists that we went to that clearly caught on to her game, and she did not want to go back there. But you're right. You really have to diagnose it yourself. And then the flip side of that is there's a lot of victim blaming that comes along with this. And people will look at you and say, are you a doctor? Are you a therapist? Are you trained to diagnose this person? Yes, I'm qualified to diagnose this person. And like, I think it's important for me to say, I'm not branding her. I'm not saying that she's one thing or the other. I'm saying she exhibits the traits and the characteristics of something in this category of the cluster B personality disorder. There's a real crossover of symptoms, a lot of shared symptoms between those personality disorders, and they can have multiple ones. And, when it comes to that, there's a bipolar. The term bipolar is thrown around real loosely. Oh, my
goodness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody's bipolar. One person having a bad day, they're bipolar. You're right.
Yeah. People would say that about her. They'd be like, is she bipolar? I wish she was bipolar. That would be a blessing compared to, because these ones, and I'm not making light of bipolar either, but these cluster B personality disorders are far worse.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
And there really is no treatment. They really don't get better. I mean, I was
just about to ask you about that, because I've read. I've been doing a ton of research. That's how I found you on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And I'm even seeing where trained therapists, people with PhDs and stuff, are saying that, there's not much hope. The only thing you can do is try to talk them into trying to get therapy. Without therapy, there's no hope. Even with therapy, there isn't a really superb chance. Like, there's a chance that, it might can get better, but the odds are stacked against you.
Yes,
and I thought that was really interesting. Like, wow, like, for the most part, they're saying, like, they're like that, and don't get your hopes up trying to get them to change.
Right.
That's scary.
So basically, they're born with it. So they're born with it. This is just naturally how they were born.
Not necessarily. I read it. I read an article that was saying that as far as the people that are like the psychopaths, like the serial killers, like the Ted Bundys and all the crazy people. Sometimes people that's diagnosed as being actual psychopaths, some were born with it. It's kind of like genetic, but when it comes to like sociopaths and borderline and all that stuff, for the most part, it's usually due to traumatic experiences.
Yeah, that's
traumatic life experiences, like may have been bullied, molested, raped,
yes,
mistreated, abandoned, that type stuff.
Yeah, that's part of why I'm really glad you guys are doing this topic, and I'm seeing that there. I think a lot of it starts with awareness. And there hasn't been a lot of research or, a lot of awareness about this. my personal belief, based on what I've seen, is I think most of it is an environmental thing, the way they're raised, certain experiences. But I don't think they really know for sure. But there are definitely some common denominators, some things that they typically, situations that these people come out of that leaves them susceptible to this. And I think a lot of it is a real abandonment at an early age. They say before a child is old enough to talk, they're very they rely on their parents so much they can't talk about what they need, they can't explain what they need, so they really, they cry and they're fed, they cry and they get their diaper changed. When those needs aren't met at a real young age as an infant, then they're really highly likely to turn out like this.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does, and so now it does make me sad that these people, like I said, I don't think they choose it. I believe that's the way their brain is wired. I think it's pathological. However, any time a person turns their hurt against other people, now they're the abuser, and I think they have to seek treatment. They have to seek help, and ultimately, my heart goes out to their victims. The victims.
Right, not them, the victims. Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
The people that, I'm telling you, man, that stuff will have you admitting yourself into an institution. You'll end up crazy. Like, you'll end up in the loony bin if you stick around for this abuse. You know what I mean? Like, you'll go crazy. Like, it will take you there.